of the year Mike Brown as their next head coach. Brown's last stop in the NBA was when he was with the Kings, where he was fired in December after a 13-18 start to the season, despite having led the franchise to its first playoff berth in 16 seasons in 2023. Now he heads to New York, where expectations are high after the team reached its first conference finals since 2000. Mitchell Robinson was asked about the hiring of his new head coach on Instagram, and he said, quote, "Great pickup." So players see, I guess, the upside in this, but with the team as high as the Knicks are, where they finished last year, the expectations in an injured Eastern Conference. Tim, is next season make or break for Mike Brown?
Well, first of all, I'd like to be with Mitchell Robinson on that boat. That looked pretty great. No offense to you guys. That would be pretty fun to do right now. But look, do I think Mike Brown should be on the hot seat? No. Mike Brown just got hired. He's a great coach. He's had a lot of success in his career. He's got the Cavs with LeBron James to the finals back in 2007. Won 66 games with the Cavs. Won Coach of the Year multiple times. He's about as good a replacement that was on the open market as you could find for Tom Thibodeau. However, we are in New York City. I live in New York City. We have heard how excited the Knicks fans are about this team. Obviously, they just made the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. Of course, Mike Brown is on the hot seat because the whole organization is on the hot seat. When you fire your coach after doing something you haven't done in 25 years, after Tom Thibodeau has quite clearly been the best coach in this century for the Knicks the past few years, there's no question what the expectations are in New York. They have to make the NBA Finals, especially, as you said, Courtney, with Jason Tatum now out of the picture with his injury for the Celtics, with Tyrese Halliburton's injury making him now be out of the picture for the Pacers, with Miles Turner leaving the Pacers as well. Those teams are off the board. So you're looking at a situation where it's the Knicks, who are just in the conference finals, and the Cavs, who just lost in the second round, as the two teams that are the co-favorites atop the conference. The Knicks obviously are in the best position they've been in to make the finals since 1999 when they made it the last time. It could arguably be their best chance to win a title since they were in the finals in 1994. And they, by the way, have a 52-year championship drought that everybody here in New York City is desperate for them to break. So yes, it might not be fair, but that's what the money's for. Mike Brown's going to get a lot of money to coach the Knicks. He's going to be under a lot of pressure to deliver from day one.
Mike Brown is now entering the most high-pressure job in all of sports right now, where you are coming to a team in the biggest, wildest market in New York City, and your expectation is to do something that has not been done for this team since the 70s, is win a championship. That is the boom or bust of Mike Brown. You are a failure for this season if you do not at least make the finals and win a championship and do something when it comes to making the finals that has not been done in this century, right? And you have to do this with a Knicks team that has gotten all the things they've asked for. They got rid of the coach who played in too many minutes. They've added some people on the bench, and now you have no Celtics. You have no Pacers to worry about. You have a weakened East. Giannis is probably not in the playoff picture. Your floor right now, as Mike Brown, is to get this team to the NBA Finals, which is a tall task. The NBA is unpredictable. Injuries happen. Because also, you make it the finals, OKC is still there, right? You can make it out of the East. You still have a juggernaut, powerhouse team in OKC that you have to get to, but that is still the expectation. Do I think they'll fire him if he does not get to the finals? No, but I think his job would be in jeopardy if they peter out in the first round. If they don't go, like, that is the margin of error that we're in. And I can't think of another coach in another situation in their first year on the job in a place like New York City where that is the
Sox finally break their drought to win a title. We've seen the Cubs do it. We've seen the White Sox do it. There is no bigger accomplishment left in North American professional sports than to be the person that brings a championship to the Knicks and their fans. It is what makes it an incredibly attractive job. It's also what makes it an incredibly high stakes and high pressure job. And it's arguably never been higher stakes or higher pressure than it is right now for Mike Brown.
And we know what the shelf life is on NBA coaches. You could win a title and then be fired 2 years later.
Yep.
Word to Michael Malone. So a lot of pressure for Mike Brown, going defense to offense. This is going to be an interesting transition. We'll see if it works out for the New York Knicks in the two-man game land Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. But we leave it here because there's Summer League coming up, kicking off tomorrow.
In Denver, David Dennis Jr., Jokic and the Nuggets are going to be in the Western Conference Finals next year. You buying that or selling it?
I'm going to give it a soft sell because I still think that the Rockets are right there. I think they're neck and neck with the Rockets, so I would not put them definitively in the Western Conference Finals just quite yet.
There's an interesting, I want to pause here for a second. There's an interesting news item going on with the Nuggets right now. Fill us in, Bontemps, or
I got it.
McMahon? Who's
So-
got it? One of the Tims.
Jonas,
Help me out.
So Jonas Valanciunas, one of the key additions for the Denver Nuggets this offseason, could potentially be going back to Europe to play for Greek powerhouse Panathinaikos. Now, this is an interesting development because Denver just traded for Valanciunas a few days ago to fulfill their hole as a backup center behind Nikola Jokic, something that's been a long-term problem. Now, for this to happen, Denver has to agree to it. The NBA has to let him out of his deal, something that has happened in the past for different players, but not for players like Valanciunas, who are supposed to be key contributors on a team trying to win a championship next season. So this will be a very interesting story to follow. If Valanciunas does leave, one of the big additions to this Denver bench this offseason suddenly will go away.
Yeah, McMahon, what do you make of that situation in Denver? That's the kind of a bigger deal, I think, that maybe got noticed the last couple of days.
I mean, a complete stunner for the Nuggets. They felt like they finally, after years of searching and scrambling and frankly failing to find a legitimate backup for Nikola Jokic, found that guy. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'd rather go to Greece than Denver. So we'll see how that plays out. But reports out of Europe right now are that Valanciunas is on his way to Greece to get his physical. It certainly seems determined to play in Europe and not in Denver, and so the search for the backup center for the Nuggets continues.
Fascinating situation out there in Denver. All right, back to our buy or sell segment. Bontemps, you buying or selling that the Dallas Mavericks are a legit contender?
I'm selling because of the guy you just saw dribbling right there, Kyrie Irving. We do not know what status Kyrie Irving is going to have this season. He's obviously coming off the torn ACL he suffered back in the spring. If you could tell me Kyrie Irving was definitely going to be 100% healthy for the playoffs, I could see an argument that they could be right up there with Houston and Denver behind OKC in the West, but that's too big of an if for me to put them up with those kind of teams.
All right, one more for McMahon. Buy or sell, Tim, the Warriors have blown this offseason.
Yeah, I sell that because when you look at the Warriors offseason, you've got to consider what they did before the trade deadline. They pulled off a blockbuster to go get Jimmy Butler. They went 22-5 with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry in the starting lineup together. That's their big swing. They've got things to figure out. Primarily, they've got to figure out this Kuminga situation. They're hoping to get Al Horford on board. But it was a great trade deadline. You got to package that into the considerations of their summer grade.
That's fair enough. And Warriors star Draymond Green had some similar thoughts on his podcast recently, talking about the Warriors off-season. Take a listen to what Draymond said.
The heavy lifting's been done. Like you added Jimmy. I think that was the biggest thing that needed to happen. Now we got that. Now you can tool around that. Just going into it, it's just all about looking to see, like, all right, now we know how it looks. Now we got that part figured out. Now what does it look like around that? So I think we're in a much better position against this one than we were last year.
What do they need to be focused on right now?
Well, they need to be focused on Jonathan Kuminga, who's probably the most interesting free agent left on the board. A very talented wing, a guy who, in the second round when Steph Curry was hurt against the Minnesota Timberwolves, had some huge games and showed what people around the league, some at least, have thought for a while, which is he's a guy who could be an impact player on the wing, the kind of player that, frankly, every team is looking to have. But he's also had long stretches of inconsistent play with the Warriors, which is why he's been in and out of the